Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. We're really glad that you're here, whether you're watching us live or if you're watching us later on or listening to the podcast. We're really glad you decided to be in our audience. We're really happy that you're here.
Yes, we are.
Hope you had a good Christmas. We did.
Yeah, and it's almost next year.
I know. We're right in between Christmas and New Year's. I have to show you what my granddaughter gave me for Christmas. Here we go. Can you see? It's an angel ring that she told me, and she wrapped it all up and everything. And she told me, I got it on top of a cupcake, Gran.
Spared no expense.
Yeah. I love it. Paul Hollis says, hey, Rob and Joan.
Hey,
hello, Paul. We're glad to see you in the audience.
Good to see you. Well, on with the news.
Yes.
Tomorrow, we've got two things going on. Paul, who just said hi to us, is going to be broadcast on wdjyfm.com. If you go to www.wdjyfm.com, 9 o'clock Eastern time here in the U.S. Tomorrow night, you'll hear Paul Hollis. And that was a really good episode he was in. Also, tomorrow night live, before that, actually, it's 7:30 Eastern time, is the Haunted Campfire Tales podcast. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be talking about Christmas spirits and nature spirits.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Joe Conjal asked about if there were any ghosts that were associated with Christmas, and I kind of teased him, and I said, you mean like Scrooge? Anyway, since he was interested, I did some research, and actually we knew some of these stories, which I just never associated that it was at Christmas time that this always happens. So those are going to be interesting stories. And Jessie, our daughter Jessie, she did a lot of research on nature spirits or elementals. Paul says, yes, please join me. Yes, right. Please do join him. It was a really good show. And Marjorie Deering says, hi, all. Hi, Marjorie. We're glad you're here. We hope you all had a really, really good Christmas.
Yeah, now for Paul's, that's being broadcast on FM radio, which is actually an Atlanta station, Atlanta, Georgia.
But you can watch it on the
web. But you can watch it on the website of www.wdjyfm.com. And as far as the Haunted Campfire Tales podcast, you can watch that live on the Tampa Bay Spirits Facebook page, or you could go to YouTube at Meet the Author Podcast and watch there, either place. Then coming up Saturday is Episode Rewind, and it's Paul de Blasi III.
Oh, yeah.
From New Mexico.
That was really good.
That's Saturday, 5:30 p.m. right here where you're watching right now.
He's such a nice man, too.
Yeah. Good episode.
It was a good show.
I enjoyed that. And then next Wednesday, January 3rd, next year, 7 o'clock here, same time, same station, we'll have actually a Florida author from the Tampa Bay area here, Steve Altier. So we're looking forward to him hearing what he has to say. Couple other podcasts to be of interest to authors. Voice of India, of course, that we support, and Book World, The Great Escape. Both of those really good. You can
wait just a minute. Joe Conjal just checked in. He said, hi, Rob and Joan, just checking in. I'm down with the flu and I've been in bed all day. Sorry. Hello, everyone. And now I'm going back to bed.
Yes.
Joe, you're going to have to watch the rewind of tomorrow night's episode because I did research on Christmas spirits just for you, and I found a bunch. All right.
On the
Feel well on the podcast tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Campfire.
You knew what I meant.
Yeah. And then also our guest tonight has her own podcast. We'll talk about that in a little while. Let's see. January is going to be epic for us because we're also going to be broadcasting on Twitter. Not Twitter, but X, formerly known as Twitter. So besides Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, we'll be going out on X as well. And then, let's see, new release. Want to remind everybody, Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles book number 20 is out. Texas Summers or Murder by Jinx Schwartz, and that's available on Amazon. All 20 books are. It'd be really great to jump in there, visit Magnolia Bluff. Don't go there in person. You may not come back. And then last but not least is the top 6 audio downloads for the last 30 days for us, for our show. Number 1, of course, USA still, but Russia is closing in on us. They've had 18%, believe it or not, almost 20% of our downloads are from Russia in the last 30 days. The next one, number 3, was Bangladesh, then followed by India, Australia, and Hungary joined the ranks this time. And those were all with over 100, all of those had over 100 episodes downloaded in the last 30 days, each one of them. So
each one of those countries. So that's pretty cool, guys.
Thank you, everybody in those countries for supporting us, and send us an email. Tell us what you think about the show. And
now, I just wanted to mention that George
English.
is in the hospital. George Dismukes, you all know. He had vascular surgery today. He's doing well. He's not a happy camper, but he's doing well. The surgery's finished. The surgeon said it went well. They're going to be looking at him for the next 3 hours, and he may have to be admitted. Nadine told us so.
So prayers for George.
Prayers for George and Nadine. Yeah.
All right, I think that's all the news.
I think it is too.
Been busy, haven't we?
Yes. I think we should bring on our guest because you really want to meet her. That's why you're here.
There you go. Okay. So without much ado, Pamela Nichols.
Hi, Pamela.
Welcome.
Hi, guys. How are you?
We're really good. Now, tell us again, what is the name of your podcast and when and where can people view it? Or hear it?
My podcast is the Healing Words podcast. You can find it on Callcast. It's also on Spotify and Google Podcast. I interview authors who tell their stories as a way to help heal and promote growth in others. So it's fiction and nonfiction, positive, inspirational stories.
Okay.
Sort of like the books that you write, right?
Yes, yes.
Yours are fictional, though.
Mine are fiction, yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Do you want to tell us how you started doing that or why you started doing that?
Sure. It totally came about as a fluke. I homeschooled my children, and I was a freelance writer for our local newspaper. I would write from home while I was homeschooling my children. And I had a friend who we went out to lunch one day, and I noticed she wasn't eating her food. She was literally pushing it around her plate. And I kind of got offended. I thought maybe she didn't want to be with me or she wanted to eat somewhere else. And I asked her about it, and she said to me, she let me know that she was recovering from an eating disorder. Well, I'd never heard of such. And I'm embarrassed to say, the first thing I thought was, Black people don't get eating disorders. And that is where the idea for my book came from, because a lot of the things that we think, we have a lot of faulty thinking, and it's absolutely sinking our lives. So in the story that I wrote, the first book is called Necessary Food. The main character is African American. She has an eating disorder to deal with some of the stress in her life. And her coworker, who becomes a friend, has recovered from an eating disorder. Now, she's white and she notices the signs. And I had to do a lot of research on eating disorders. They hide it very well, but there's some telltale signs. And this girl recognizes it, and she goes to her and says, hey, I see this. I can help you. This thing almost killed me, but I can help you. And Colette, the main character, she believes what she believes. She does not believe that she has an eating disorder. And so that's how the story goes.
Did she have anorexia or was she,
She had bulimia.
Yeah.
She did the binge and purge. And Mandy, the girl who was trying to help her, had the other disordered eating. But the premise is the same. They were locked in, and they needed help. And in my stories, there is a level of fantasy there, because you read about every 3 or 4 chapters, you see the story behind the story. So you see the demons plot what they're going to do, and you see how they decide to use the racism, the way her faulty thinking against her. And then you see the angels come in as well.
That's fascinating.
Interesting.
You follow the story, and then you see behind the story, and then you see how that works out.
I like that.
Nice approach.
Yeah. Paul Rushworth Brown says, "Hi, Rob, Joan, and Pamela. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Paul." And
Thank you, Rob. Hi.
This is Paul.
Oh, Paul.
Yeah. He's in Australia.
He's in Australia.
Oh, my goodness.
Morning there.
It's tomorrow morning there.
Did you have a good Christmas, Paul?
We'll
find out momentarily. It takes
a
while.
long time.
And it takes a while to type too.
There you go.
So that's really a good premise. You know.
Yeah, I thought so. And the larger story that, again, we're not always mindful of the spirit world that's around us. And then when we do pay attention, we give more focus to the bad, to the dark side, and not the good side. So I'm trying to balance that and keep us mindful. And what I'm hoping is that when you read this story, you may not have disordered eating, but you are aware that, oh, you know what? Some of the ways I'm thinking aren't correct here.
Yeah,
or maybe, God is on my side, and this is a way out. And, this door has been open for me, and I need to give more attention there instead of over here.
Yeah. Paul says it's 11 a.m. and yes, he had a very nice Christmas. Thanks. And looking forward to the new year. As are we. 2024. Who?
Next week, people.
Yeah. Time is marching on.
It is.
Much too quickly.
It's interesting that that you would think that Black people wouldn't get an eating disorder, that was a white person disorder.
It's interesting. It is, but that is the first thing I thought. And she even told me that she didn't think she had it. Now, we mentioned my podcast. I interviewed a gentleman about 2 weeks ago. He's a man who had an eating disorder, and he did not know.
Yeah, because he was a man.
Right. Because
that was a woman's disease.
Exactly. He, he suffered some trauma, and then he just started going out for running and just really started working out and decreasing his eating. He wasn't trying to do it. He had an episode. He fainted while he was out on a run and was taken to the emergency room. And the doctor said to him, I'm running your labs. I'm looking at your body. You have an eating disorder. And he didn't believe it. And so now he has written a book, a fictionalized account, just like I do, with the aim of helping people. But again, it goes back to the fact that a lot of what's sinking us is our faulty thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And we all have it.
Oh, yes. We all
about
have
all kinds of things.
Yeah. Yeah. Big things, small things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I initially I had no idea I was going to write a series. And it's a 5-book series. I'm working on book 5 now, the final one. I just wanted to tell that story. And you're writers. You know how it is when you've got something in you. You just have to get it on the page. And while I was writing, one of my characters, another character, the third character, she just kept blowing up. I would take out sections because I could tell my story was getting away from me. And I would just dump it into another document. And when I finished book 1, I went back to look at that. And I'm like, holy come on, here's another story. And so that story deals with depression and suicide. And that's more grace.
More grace.
Mm-hmm. And again,
excuse me for a minute. Is Grace the character?
No.
Okay.
There's a scripture that says he gives grace and more grace.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that story, the woman from book 1, she and her siblings were separated and placed into foster care as children because of their father's abuse. And they eventually, as happens so often, they eventually lose touch with each other. And by the time they reunite as adults, the youngest sister has completed suicide. And again, when I went back and looked at the notes that I pulled out of book 1 about this character, I realized the opportunity to tell another story, because sometimes our houses of faith really get, in my opinion, they cause more harm around depression and suicide. Well-meaning or not, they cause more harm, and that's the subject of that story. The one of the siblings believes that because she completed suicide, she's not in the presence of the Lord, and the other one believes that God is not like that, and she's fine.
Gotcha. Paul says he suffers from depression. That's why he writes.
Yes, it is so healing. I write to work out some of the problems or the issues that I see in my life, and I am acquainted with anxiety and depression myself. Yes.
Yes. It isn't funny. I'm laughing because I have general anxiety disorder. So,
and book deadlines make you anxious.
Well, everything makes me anxious. The problem is everything makes me anxious. And actually, quite a few of the women in my family have general anxiety disorder. I also have OCD and I have PTSD. And I think it's really more common than you realize. But
yes,
my daughter was laughing because she said to me, I'm feeling really nervous about taking the anti-anxiety medicine. And I said, I understand that you're anxious. And she was like, oh my goodness, I'm anxious. She said, oh, now that you said that, she said, I'm anxious about taking anti-anxiety medicine. She said that just made it so much easier. But you're anxious about everything. I mean, things that your brain says you shouldn't be anxious about that,
I remember some years ago, my GAD number was so high, generalized anxiety disorder was so high. I was on medication for a while, and I remember the feeling of when it kicked in. I remember it. And I remember thinking, I had this thought, is this what normal people, is this how normal feels? I mean,
I know exactly what you're saying.
It's hard to describe. I was thinking, wait a minute.
Okay,
my mind is quiet.
Feel a little. Oh, that's the thing, though. This little hamster that's up here, that's on a wheel, that's going around and around and around, or a whole team of little hamsters going around with all these thoughts. That ruminating, that'll get you, man. It's bizarre, and when that's quiet, you're kind of like, whoa, it's not so exhausting to make a decision then.
And I don't think people unless you've gone through, you don't understand that kind of exhaustion.
Paul Rushworth says the medication just balances. Yeah. And Tom Nally is here with
Tom is saying hi. Hi, Tom.
Hi. With his
hi, Tom.
Guess what, Tom? A producer reached out to us, and long story short, we signed a contract with an FM radio station in Atlanta. We're now on there Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Tom also has a podcast.
Paul says stops very highs and very lows, so it balances for him.
Yeah.
Okay, well, speaking of all that, we do need to take our first break.
Oh,
it's about that time already.
Man, Tom says, oh my God, that's awesome. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Oh, Paul, you didn't know Paul. Paul Rushworth said, that's fantastic. Yeah. Tom says congratulations.
Well,
Thank
it's fantastic that we have to go to commercials. Oh, no, that's not what he meant.
you.
Okay, anyway, we'll be right back. Don't go away, folks.
We'll
Just
get
be
back
gone
to
for a
your
couple of minutes.
comments.
Yep. And when we come back, Pamela's going to read for us.
Yeah.
Yippee.
Many secrets are hidden within the darkness of the jungle. Now comes part 4 in the Jaguar series by retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. In this saga, Brandon, Andrea, and Naja, the Black Jaguar, go deep into the Mato Grosso jungle on a mission to rescue 2 kidnapped children. During their journey, they encounter many dangers, including Yanomami Indians, bent on revenge for the murder of one of their warriors.
Return of the Jaguar is book 4 in the Jaguar series, starting with 2 faces of the Jaguar, the Lost City, and the Jaguar's Quest. All 4 are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookseller websites worldwide. Return of the Jaguar is a must-read.
The clock is ticking. Can Gracie uncover the truth?
Philip Pliant is the wealthy opportunist plastics dealer and CEO of Pliant Industries. He's also a master thief, creating a pervasive threat to the manufacturing infrastructure in the Caribbean islands markets. With the cartel as his stealth client, the naive city leaders have been seduced, enabling the production of more than 3-dimensional building materials.
The expected profits are monstrous.
Is the R Group, now led by Gracie and the family heirs, strong enough to win against this predator?
Can JJ's cats act on the root cause analysis in time?
Will Gracie be able to squash Pliant and the cartels?
Gracie never considered their lives would hang in the balance. The clock is ticking. 5, 4, 3.
It's every parent's worst nightmare. Police officer Madison Jackson awakes to discover her baby kidnapped from her crib. Was it revenge for someone she arrested, or something far more sinister? Madison's estranged husband is incarcerated in Supermax. As the second in command of a deadly Mexican cartel, did he issue the order to abduct their daughter? Bye, Baby, Bye, from author Kelly Marshall. Get your copy today.
And we're back.
Here we are, just as promised.
And Marjorie Deering also said, congrats. I thought that you already knew, Marjorie, that we're now being broadcast on FM radio in Atlanta.
Because it should be a commercial for This Is Tom's World.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Pamela,
which book are you going to read from?
Well, we discussed 1 and 2, so I think I'm going to read a section from chapter 1 of book 3.
Okay.
Which is
Hidden Mercy,
right?
Yep.
Here we go.
No, book 3 is Always Never. That's book 4.
Never.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry. Here we go.
No, that's fine. That's it. There we are.
We can't count.
Okay, so I'm going to read a section of that. According to her mother, there was only one way to truly clean a bathroom floor. Danny dropped to her hands and knees, wiping left, right, and circular, rubbing the cleanser into the tile with vigor. The activity called up memories from her childhood, beating rugs on the back porch, ironing her father's uniform with the appropriate amount of starch, making beds with military precision, flipping mattresses at appointed intervals. Cleanliness was next to godliness to her mother, and by golly, Charlene Spencer was going to make sure they all got into the kingdom. Nearly 3 decades later, and things are different for Danielle Spencer Best. Her dining room table overflowed with textbooks, workbooks, and at least one art or science project, all necessary when one's children attend the elite Mason Preparatory Academy. Depending on the season, sports gear littered the foyer, joined by half a dozen pairs of shoes. The dishwasher door hung open, the last night's clean dishes held captive by the morning's dirty plates. The house reeked of 2 boys, 3 four-legged animals, a distracted father, and the spirit and soul of an exhausted mother. Nearly 3 decades later, and Danny's childhood home remained the model of cleanliness and order. One could lick the floors and walk away with enough good bacteria to live until the return of Halley's Comet. The floors in her house, lick one and possibly die on the spot. Danny's reflections diverted her mind from the reason the floor required cleaning in the first place. She reviewed the handiwork. Yep, she'd gotten up all the blood. She shouldn't have provoked him, she finally reasoned. His job was stressful and it had been a rough week. She planned to house clean before he got home, but Brendan had an asthma attack and she rushed him to the ER when he couldn't find his inhaler. That crisis resolved, she picked up takeout on the way home, the lateness of the hour and the tiredness in her bones refusing to give way for a home-cooked meal. She hadn't paid attention to the account balance and didn't know an automatic payment was deducted seconds after hers. Thanks to the app on his phone, he knew they were in the negative before she did. He was livid when she walked in the door. In short order, the argument bounced off money management and ricocheted to her worthiness as a human. Every misdeed of her recent past was tallied, including the one that connected them in the first place. "You're such a whore," he sneered. She walked away from him, stating that she didn't want to fight. In truth, she didn't want their boys to hear his cruelty. One or both always seemed to make eye contact with her during their clashes, and it tore at her heart. Leaving the boys to their video games, she calmly took the stairs to their bedroom with a plan to put away the week's laundry. "Look, you're right, I'm wrong. Please, let's not do this," she implored when they were out of earshot of the children. Instead, he got louder, the name-calling more vile, the hostility more intense. Her silence seemed to incite him. He continued to detail the ought he held against her weight, her looks, the fact that she didn't earn an income. She was in the master bath, putting away towels when he mentioned her family. By then, she had enough. "Don't you dare bring my parents into this. They did a better job raising me than yours did you," she spat. She didn't see his fist, but felt this declaration of control as the force pushed her back and sideways with such impact, her face slammed into the sink. The punch caused a nosebleed and the porcelain loosened a tooth. She instinctively released a circled her neck. She was assaulted by twin fears, the inability to breathe and the look in his eyes. As she fought off dizziness, she could hear Seth screaming. The force of his older brother jumping on their father's back shot waves of pain inside as it bore the weight of 2 bodies. The man released his grip as he stood and slung 9-year-old Brendan to the floor. Coughing and summoning air into her lungs, Danny threw herself in front of the child, attempting to shield him from the same fist that started the melee. 4 sets of hands, arms, and legs wrestled wildly as everyone wailed at varying decibels. The angry man pulled himself up, cursed, and thundered out of the house. "He's not a good daddy. He's so mean," Seth pouted afterwards. The trio moved to the master bedroom where they sat rocking as she hugged the boys tightly. Without a word, Brendan disengaged and walked back to the bathroom. He returned with a wet washcloth, which he placed gently against his mother's wounded face. He kissed her softly on the forehead, the coldness of his eyes contradicting his gentleness. As a concession, Danny allowed her sons to make a blanket fort in the den as they watched the latest Avengers movie. As their dogs huddled against the boys in the darkness, she watched their distress evaporate as they focused on Loki's attempt to take over Earth. Half an hour later, they surrendered to sleep. Now standing before the bathroom mirror, Danny inventoried her next steps: wear makeup and collars to hide the neck bruises, make a dental appointment, clean the blood off the floor. She resolved to do better next time, keep the house spotless, mind the bank balance, meal prep once a week. Panic arose as she watched the clock. This was the longest he stayed away. What if he didn't come back? The house phone rang. He was calling to apologize and say he was on his way home. Nearly tripping as she rushed back to her bedroom, she mentally rehearsed her forgiveness. She picked up the receiver, took a deep breath to calm herself, and with a smile on her face she hoped would seep into her voice, she issued a greeting. Her heart sank as she answered. I'm sorry, Pastor isn't home right now. May I take a message?
Okay, that was brilliant.
Intense.
I love that.
Thank
Pastor's
you.
home right now. May I take a message?
And in that story, we have like the young man on the cover. His father was a pastor of a mega church, the first mega church, because he's an older man. And he ended up taking over the church after his father died. He ends up assaulting his wife because for years he watched his father assault his mother. And he thinks that's normal. And again, the premise of these books are the way that we think is sinking us. He really thinks that's normal. And he struggles with the memories of an 8-year-old boy who could not protect his mother. And he's doing the same thing to his wife.
That's so well done. And unfortunately, so real.
Yeah.
I mean, this happens in houses every day.
Yes. And when I do readings, I always include this. I may include something from another book. I always include that. And when I read that last line, Pastor is not home, you can hear the gasp in the room.
Yeah. It's pretty shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Also very real.
Yeah, unfortunately. Very painful, very real.
Yeah. And that's a really well-written book. That's really, really well written.
Thank you.
Good passage.
But a lot like the depression and the suicide in book 2, a lot of times our faith community makes these situations worse. You make people who suffer from depression are made to feel as if they're somehow lacking in faith.
Mm-hmm.
They're not trusting God enough. They don't have enough faith, and that is their issue. There are women and men who are in abusive, emotionally and physically abusive partnerships, and they are given the weight of the responsibility there. You know, you need to pray more. You need to humble yourself. You need to submit. You need to do this, when they're not dealing with the real situation.
Right. Oh, we just lost your audio for a minute.
Oh, did you? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but we're
out of sync again.
We're out of sync again. I don't know why that is. Marjorie has something to say. She says a family member has anxiety issues. Getting the right medications in the right amounts was very hit or miss. Mm-hmm. After an individualized, in-depth study, the test provided the proper balance of medications, and the difference it has made is remarkable. Yeah, yes. Marjorie, it does. It makes a huge difference.
Yes, yes.
Like Pamela said, you think, is this the way normal people are? But I don't like to say normal people because, everybody has problems and
right,
including mental health issues. So,
I think the appropriate thing to say is this how it feels when you're not ruminating.
When you're not
right. Is this how it feels when you have a semblance of control over your thinking?
Yes, when your neurodivisive mind isn't going woo. But you probably don't know this, but we were in the ministry for many years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so the biggest thing that we like to preach was that we all needed to be real with each other and say what's really on the inside, because once you get it out, then you can heal it. People are afraid and they hide things, like she was hiding, and then she was making, and this is just so casebook, she was making excuses for what he was doing and trying to figure out what she could do to be better so that he wouldn't do what he was doing. But the problem was his,
Exactly.
And
there's absolutely no accountability. And if there's no accountability, there's not going to be any change.
And unless you allow people in the church to be real about what's really happening, things aren't going to get, people aren't going to get the help they need, and things aren't going to change, you know?
Right, right.
It has to
That
change.
shame is going to keep them right there.
And shaming somebody I mean, you shouldn't be shamed because you're sick and God hasn't healed you. You shouldn't be shamed because you have a mental health disorder. You know, you shouldn't be shamed for anything, really. We all mess up. You know, we're all human.
Exactly. I read something on Facebook today. It was a retelling by an author, and I can't remember who said it, but he said a friend of his was an alcoholic. And he said, this friend said, when I come to church, everyone turns and looks at me with such scorn that I can feel it. When I come to church late, he says, when I go to my AA meetings late, they stop the meeting and everyone just runs over and hugs me. It makes me feel so welcome. They're just so glad that I'm there. And I said, what an indictment
of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
When you consider, Jesus said that the best thing that we can do is to love one another. That's really an indictment. You shouldn't be under any kind of judgment or shame.
Right.
Instead of being happy that he got there. Right?
Right. They're judging you because he came late.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And I am of the belief that people judge others, but the self-judgment has got to be off the charts. You know, the negative talk that we do in our own heads.
Oh, yeah. That's for sure. That's real. Paul says it's politically correct when speaking to mention the person first and the disability second, such as people with a disability or a person who suffers with depression. Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul says, love you, Rob and Joan. We love you too. We love you too, Paul. This is Straight Talk Podcast here, folks. It's called Let's Be Real. We're all people. We're all on this ship together. And we all have problems. And we need to love one another and give and extend grace, not shame.
Right. Extend grace, not shame.
Yeah. Yeah. Always extend grace. This book was
Always Never.
Always
Never. That was the one I just read from. Yes.
All right. And then Hidden Mercy. What is that about?
Now, that is the pain of relationships. Like I said, I used to write for the newspaper, and I'm still quite a news junkie. So 2 rather recent news stories, I folded into that one. I believe it was Arizona, and I believe it was 2019. A young man was walking home and was killed by police. And he was special needs, I do believe. And he was African American and special needs, I do believe. So I folded that into book 4, The Fear of Other, and how our preconceived notions about each other lead to all kinds of unimaginable things. And part 2, or the second story, because there's 2 stories running side by side, we had a workplace violence situation. I'm in Virginia. We had 2, actually. We had one in Virginia Beach at a courthouse, and we had one at a Walmart in Chesapeake. And both of those are within 20 minutes of me. And one of them I drive by almost every day. And so in Hidden Mercy, this gentleman who he and his wife have been married 30 years, happily married, and they're known in the community. They are leaders in their church. They're leaders in their neighborhood. She dies in a workplace shooting. And when he gets her phone back after the investigation and all that, he finds out she had a whole nother life he knew nothing about.
Wow.
So he's having to deal with his grief and deal with his anger. And so I happen to be going through something in my personal life, and I believe the Lord was showing me is that we don't always show up authentically in relationships. We are afraid to be seen. We don't speak the truth. We ignore red flags. And so some of the issues that we find ourselves in, they're not even a surprise. And so I wove those two into the Hidden Mercy. And it just talks about the way that we mistreat ourselves. And because of that, it's no wonder that we mistreat other people.
Well, in your other book, Always Never, you know, and I think we were just speaking about what produces the fact that people are afraid to be their authentic self because of what blowback they get. And so that's why we have to extend grace and mercy to other people. And extend it to yourself too, because that's really hard, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it says in the word to love yourself, to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And, you know, I always used to think, I won't love them very much then because I don't love myself. And that's something we all have to work on is
I don't think some of us, the negative self-talk is so pervasive. And once I started working on that, I was amazed at the times and the amount of times I literally called myself stupid. When I would make a mistake, a simple mistake, I would say something like,
that was stupid.
Yeah, you're doing that again.
And don't do that. Don't say
and so
that.
if I talk to myself that way, you can only imagine what I'm thinking about other people, even if I try to dress it up.
Yeah. Yes.
It's
this
time
is
for
amazing.
a second break.
Yeah.
We need to take a little break.
I could talk about this all day.
Really?
Yes.
I know. That's okay.
One of my favorite subjects.
There you go. All right. So we're going to take a quick break here. Nobody go away. And when we come back, we'll find out what's coming up with Pamela here. Okay. So stand by, everybody.
Paradise, my prison. Charlie Flint awakens from a deep sleep and finds himself alone on a tropical beach surrounded by a palm tree jungle and exotic animals. He cannot remember who he is or anything about his life. First, he must find food and build shelter and protect himself from hidden dangers. As his memory gradually returns, it reveals what a very flawed person he is. A man who made too many mistakes, made too many enemies. The implications of the truth are staggering. How did Charlie get there? And will he save himself? Paradise, My Prison is the riveting new suspense thriller from retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. Paradise, My Prison by George Dismukes is available in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats worldwide.
It's 1919, and Eric Laska returns from the war in Europe. Two new enemies await him in the small, coal-mining town he calls home. One is a threat to his relationship with Rebecca, the love of his life. The other, a bloodthirsty beast, is stalking the mining town residents. The townspeople suspect Eric of one of the killings. An old man and Rebecca's 11-year-old sister have seen the beast, but only Eric believes their story. To protect the town and clear his name, he's forced to prove the werewolf exists. Available on Amazon. The Horror Within by Marjorie Swift Doring.
Step into the captivating world of skullduggery, where a family of isolated peasant copyholders finds themselves thrust into a web of danger that threatens their very existence. Set against the tumultuous backdrop of the English Reformation, this meticulously researched historical mystery unfolds with a cast of both lovable and despicable characters, immersing you in a fully realized world that's both utterly believable and fantastically unbelievable. Author Paul Rushworth Brown weaves a spellbinding narrative that transports you to Yorkshire, England, in the 16th and 17th centuries, offering an authentic and gritty portrayal of peasant life. The pages come alive with vivid descriptions, crafting an atmosphere that pulls you deeper into a story of crime, murder, and suspense like no other.
Hi, I'm Paul Rushworth Brown, author of Skullduggery, Red Winter Journey, and Demon Courage, just recently released. I hope you enjoy Skullduggery, the second edition. Cheers.
And Paul Rushworth Brown, which you just saw in his commercial, says authors have to deal with negative self-talk every day. Yeah, we need to change that tape, though. We need to change the way we're thinking, and it's hard work to change that.
It is.
Because you've done it so much, and then it becomes a habit, and it's really hard. Well, let's tell you how to get in touch with Pamela. You can read
Here's
it.
her website. It's www.pamelawrites.org. And spelling for you folks that are just listening, it's PAMELAWRITES.org. And from there, they can find your social media as well, correct?
Yes. On Facebook, I'm Pamela Writes. And there's also a link for a newsletter there. Yes.
Perfect.
Awesome. And then your email, if anyone would like to write you, is PamelaWrites@hotmail.com. And we'll go ahead and get your book giveaway going here. Everybody go ahead and the first 3 people to email PamelaWrites@hotmail.com will win an ebook of choice. Now, even if you're listening to this or watching this tomorrow or a week from now, go ahead and shoot an email to her, and
who knows?
Who knows? She may have extra copies laying around that she doesn't mind sharing with you.
I don't mind sharing.
There you go.
Tiffany Miles Firestone says, hello, Pamela Nichols.
Tiffany, she's a friend of mine.
She says, thank you for interviewing one of my favorites. You're welcome.
She's one of our favorites now, too.
Yes, she is.
So what's coming up, Pamela, as far as...
You said book number 5?
Book 5, yeah.
Yes, book 5 is going to close it out. And because I feel very strongly that a lot of what is going on in our life is inherited, learned behaviors coming down from grandfather, great-grandmother, all of that. When I realized that a lot of the negativity, positivity too, but I was more focused on the negativity, that it didn't start with me because I just thought I had a truckload of issues. When I really started looking back in my family line, I could see the behaviors that led to that. So book 5, I am going to take you back to the ancestors of the girl in book 1 who has an eating disorder, who doesn't believe it's an eating disorder. And the way book 5 opens up, her great-great-great-grandmother is a 14-year-old slave who dies in childbirth. She's been repeatedly raped by her owner. And that child grows up, and because of the light color of her skin, she realizes that the way she looks affords her some positivity in her life. That is the thinking that goes down through the bloodline that makes this girl, Colette, in book 1, believe that the way she looks is her passport in her life, which undermines, which feeds that eating disorder. So it didn't start with Colette. It started all the way back there. But she did have the power to change it. But again, she doesn't think that it's a problem, so she's not going to change it. So that book I'm supposed to have finished by February. I need prayer because I am not, I'm a little bit behind. So I endeavor to have it done by February.
All right. We'll pray for you. Karen.
For sure.
Guidry, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Karen says, hi, Pamela. I'm in the middle of Always Never Now.
Yay. Absolutely. Yes. I'm glad. Thank you, Karen.
Karen, you have any questions or comments you want to make for Pamela? Please do. You have a chance now.
We have about 5 minutes.
Uh-oh. Just 5 minutes.
The 5-minute warning. Just
yeah. Now that we're being, broadcast on an FM station, we can't go over anymore. That's too bad. Let me just put up these books again. They are so wonderful. Necessary Food, More Grace, Always Never, Hidden Mercy. In book number 5, do we have a working title for that yet?
It's called Secret Things.
Secret Things.
Okay.
Excellent. After we end the broadcast, could you stay on? I want to tell you something about the next book that you're writing.
Okay, absolutely.
That I think could help. Because, girl, I have such a lineage.
We all do. We all do. One of the things when I'm describing my books, I say that none of us has this white picket fence life or Christianity. We've all got stories and trauma and situations and hardships, and we do a lot to pretend that we don't, or not pay attention to it, or not focus on it. But it's there.
Yeah, and the truth is that the grass is always greener. Things always look better. And we were just talking about the fact that people get shamed if things happen. Instead of being helped and lifted up, they get shamed. And so people hide things. And especially in church, you come in and you want to look like what your idea of a perfect Christian is. And that's what you present. That's the face that you present. And that's the big problem, because if it's hidden,
you won't get healed.
The enemy just gets in your head, and all that hidden stuff, it gets magnified and it's worse. And it won't get healed until it's brought into the light, because it's being kept into the dark.
Exactly.
But if we don't give people a safe place to reveal those things, they can't reveal them and can't get healed. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, I am at the point in my life where I am seeking a safe place, seeking safe places, but I'm also being a safe person. I have endeavored to, again, sometimes we just focus on the negative, but I've started noticing I've got great people around me. And these are people who allow me to be myself. Tiffany's one of them. I can count on her that if I run off the rails, we have this little running joke where we talk each other off the ledge. There's nothing off limits. That is so freeing. That is so necessary. You can't do that with everyone. But if you have one or 2 or 3 people that you can do that with, it will change your life. It will change your life.
That's for real. Yes.
Okay. This has been really good.
It's been really
really good show.
Buy her books.
A lot of good content here. Pamela, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Let's see what else we have here. Another comment here.
Truth, accountability partners that are a safe place. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And accountability partners who know you. And, sometimes you need an accountability partner that says, look, girl, get yourself together. And then sometimes you need an accountability partner that just laugh you through, that just say, I don't believe you really just said that. Can you, there's a balance. And it really is in being authentic and expecting authenticity. Yes.
Paula says, great show. I always learn something on each podcast. I'm so glad, Paul.
That's great.
Yeah.
A lot of the times you're giving out the information, Paul. So
yeah,
that's a good thing too.
Yeah. It's important to that you're able to express things and not get put down for what you're expressing. That's very important.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
All righty, time's up.
Yes, it is.
Gotta go. So I'm going to move you over. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Stay with
You're
us
welcome.
until we come back to you.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about something.
Yeah, and want to remind everybody next Wednesday to be here at 7 o'clock Eastern time for Steve Altier. And hop over, join us around the campfire tomorrow night, Tampa Bay Spirits Facebook page, and the www.tampabayspirits1.com www.wlfpodcast.com is where you can check out some past episodes. So I guess that's pretty much it. And until next time.
That's all, folks.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Live every Wednesday, your Voice of Indie hosts Beam Weeks and Stephen Gees welcome authors, musicians, publishing industry pros, artists, and assorted creative guests for an exciting interactive hour. Call in during the show or post questions and comments on Twitter for responses in real time. Meet your favorite indie creators, learn inside tips, network, and promote your work. The link for each week's show is pinned on Twitter atop @VoiceOfIndie. And you can receive the link every Wednesday morning in your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter at freshinkgroup.com. Check out Voice of Indie every Wednesday on Blog Talk Radio and catch hundreds of episodes archived everywhere from our websites to our YouTube channel and Spotify.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DV.com.